Guys, I'm so annoyed right now. I recorded for like 20 minutes this video. And for whatever freaking reason, my webcam software was not recording audio. It said it was, but upon playback, it was not. So I'll record it again. Only this time it won't feel as real because it's not so much off the cuff. It's like I've done a rehearsal of it. Anyhow, how are you all doing? I've had a busy week. I've been talking to the utility company about the sewer line again. It didn't back up again, but what we have been doing is we've just been doing a lot of follow-up work on it. We got camera footage, and I took that over to the utility company, the waste treatment specialists, and I spoke to a guy who his career is in roots. But he looked at the footage and, you know, checked everything, and he's like, well, because Roto-Rooter was giving us like all sorts of horror stories about our pipes and how we were at risk of, you know, a sewer line collapsing under the street, and it would cost us tens of thousands of dollars to get the street pulled up and repaired and everything, and how, you know, our cheapest option was going to be like $18,000 to run a pipeliner the entire length. And if you guys are thinking, guys, that sounds really expensive, it sounded really expensive to us too, which is why we got a second opinion. And sure enough, yeah, the guy from the utility company is like, well, yeah, it's cracked, but it's clay and it's not actually showing any signs of collapse. It just means that you're going to get roots in there more often, so you may need to get it cleaned out, you know, every 6 months instead of every year. And how much were you spending on that? Like, well, $500 a visit. He's like, no, God, no. So we've called around. Local plumbing companies will do it on a schedule for $150 a visit, which is way better. It's been a week. Job hunt. I'm pretty positive about just my first prospect alone. There are other ones. I've got my resume out there. I'm not making any of the typical job hunting mistakes. I'm actually pretty good at job hunting, despite having the same one for the last 10 years. But yeah, been in contact with a company that I've got. I'm hearing good things about them. And I've already filled out a bunch of paperwork with them, and hopefully that leads to an interview. I have never filled out so much paperwork prior to having an interview. Okay, moving on. One second. You don't know what game this is. Today I wanted to talk about, I talk about it a lot. I talk about nostalgia and how nostalgia has a tendency to paint games as being better than we remember them. And thinking about it, I tend to be mostly critical of games that I already don't like and telling people, you're wrong because nostalgia. Well, I'm going to turn that focus on myself today, and it hurts a little bit, but it is important. It is important to always be skeptical of yourself and of your own beliefs. It is incredibly important to not just question the world around you, but yourself. So we're going to take a look at 4 games that I feel maybe don't hold up as well as I think they do. I got this idea last night when Perry and I were watching a video. It was like a half-hour-long video on why Fallout isn't Fallout anymore. And I actually wound up really disagreeing with the guy. We turned the video off about 15 minutes in because it was the nittiest of picks. I mean, yes, the series has changed, but thematically it's still very, very much like its roots. There have been new things introduced, but I mean, how old is the series? And Black Isle Studios isn't around anymore, and Interplay isn't around anymore. It's going to change, and it's going to evolve. And I think that it's evolved mostly for the better. I mean, Fallout 4 is not without its issues. But I think that mostly, yes, it's improved for the better. On a side note, does anyone else find it interesting how if any other company released games as buggy as Bethesda does, there would be riots? But when Bethesda releases an incredibly buggy game, we still just play the shit out of it, and it doesn't matter. I've been playing this one a lot lately. Disgaea! You guys have probably seen me streaming this. I love this game. It's a fantastic game, and I would say that it's actually still quite excellent and worth playing. It has a lot of issues, though, and they're issues that I didn't realize it had back when it came out. I don't know if it's just because they weren't widely regarded as issues then, and if, you know, gaming might have grown up a little bit, and we have better expectations. There are some unforgivable issues in this game. First of all, I mean, everybody's already thinking it, so I'll just say it. Item World is broken in Disgaea 1. It's not a super rare occurrence, but it's not a common one either. But once in a while, you'll come across a level in Item World that is unbeatable. That's why you carry Mr. Jency Exits with me. You. Everyone like my mug? Kristen and Tom got this for me. It's got the Archer Enterprise from the Star Trek I didn't watch. We got Kirk's Enterprise. Cisco's Defiant. Well, Worf's Defiant. Excuse me. It's Worf's now. We all know that. Best Enterprise. And the USS Coffee. Janeway's Voyager. Disgaea. Sorry. Normally that wouldn't be a big deal, but when one of the primary achievements within the game, this is back before there were actually achievements, but it's a super boss. Item God 2 requires you to go through a rank 40 legendary item and kill the Item God 2 at the bottom of it. Now, you only get Item God 2 if you do it all in one run. That means all 100 levels of the item in a singular run. Out of 100 levels, there's a pretty strong chance that you're going to run into a level that is unbeatable and you'll have to restart. That is murderous. To get 80 or 90 odd levels into an Item God 2 run and then have to start over, it's unforgivable, really, that they would ship it in that kind of condition. There's a lot of other quality of use issues. The more I hear about the improvements with the rest of the series, the more I wonder why I can't honestly move on from this game. I've played Disgaea 2. Disgaea 2 by itself, we're not counting 3, 4, 5. Disgaea 2 plays 100 times better than this, and yet I can't get away from it, and I think a lot of that is just nostalgia. There's a lot of discussions about what everybody's favorite Zelda is. Common favorite Zelda, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and more recently Breath of the Wild. I haven't played Breath of the Wild yet, so I can't really comment on it. Garen loved the crap out of that game also. Big congratulations to Garen. He did wind up beating it over the weekend, and it was epic, and he was hype. I'm very proud of him. Not only did he beat his first Zelda game, he did it on an open world Zelda game, which is impressive. There were times where I've wondered if he has the focus to be able to do that, but apparently he does. Just had to be something he cared enough about. He kept notes. I couldn't get him to keep notes on Dragon Warrior. He kept notes for Zelda Breath of the Wild, though, so good job, buddy. My personal favorite Zelda, however, is Wind Waker. It's not everybody's favorite. Common complaint about it is, ew, cel-shaded graphics. You're a fucking idiot. The graphics in this game are glorious and cartoony and expressive. And I have a feeling that people have forgotten about that part of Zelda. Because, I mean, all Zelda games have this mixture between jovialness and darkness. And that was very, very well animated with the cel-shaded graphics in this. I guess really the only... If you hate boats, don't play. I'm having a hard time being critical of this one. Nothing stands out in my mind as being terrible about it, actually. Thinking about it? I'm sorry, Wind Waker, you don't belong in that stack. It was a practiced throw. I've done it already this morning. Save the best for last this time. Phantasy Star, Episode 1 and 2. Up until getting into Demon's Souls and Dark Souls, this was my favorite game of all time. I would say that's been usurped by Demon's Souls. I was thinking Dark Souls for a little while, but now that I've had some time to marinate on it, I think that I actually prefer Demon's Souls more. Dark Souls has better boss design, but Demon's Souls, I feel, had better level design. That might be due to the more linear nature of the Demon's Souls stages, whereas Dark Souls is one massive open world. Demon's Souls is structured into separate worlds. That might be it. I don't know. Anyhow, back to Phantasy Star Online. This game's actually a lot easier to tear down than some of the others. Camera's a mess. The combat is paced terribly. The targeting system is shit. I love Phantasy Star Online. I can still sit down and enjoy it today, but I think that gaming has grown up too much and that we have an expectation for how combat should control now. It doesn't hold up. I love Phantasy Star Online. I do. I would have a hard time recommending it to anybody now. Just because it would be frustrating for a modern gamer to play. Somebody who has modern expectations of games. It would be extremely frustrating for them to play this. And that actually brings me to the big one. I have mentioned this game a lot of times on my channel. I've never actually done an LP of it. Thousands of people just clicked the unsubscribe button. Morrowind was a amazing game. It was a wonderful experience. Playing through this still sticks out in my mind. The final hours of this game are still burned into my memory. The final hours of Blood Moon are still burned into my memory. It was excellent, and there is a reason that Morrowind was an expansion for Elder Scrolls Online. Any Elder Scrolls fan has probably played this game. True fan. It's me being elitist, or trying to, at least. But the more I think about it, and the more I've sat down and been like, oh, I'm going to play an Elder Scrolls game, it usually comes down to me wanting to spend time on Morrowind or Skyrim. I'm sorry. Oblivion. I like Oblivion. I really do like Oblivion. I got all the achievements. No, I didn't get all the achievements. I'm missing like 2 Shivering Isle achievements in Oblivion, and I just don't feel like running through Shivering Isles again. It's kind of a chore to play now. Yes, there are mods out there that can make that better, but at what point does it lose its identity as Morrowind when it's been modded so much that it more plays like Skyrim? Is Morrowind as good as we all remember it being when most anyone will say, hey, play Morrowind, install these mods? I don't think it is. The world building was incredible at the time, but it's certainly not without its problems. All the dialogue to read through was great at the time, but looking back at it now and playing it again, because I do pop it in from time to time. It's got backwards compatibility on the Xbox 360. There's a lot of headache-inducing stuff about it. It's not a game that's easy to just sit down and play. It's a lot of work. Now, that's not to say that it's bad. It makes it more rewarding. When a game is hard to play, it can be rewarding, but it's not the same kind of reward that you get from Soulsborne. It's just relentlessly a chore. The journal system is awful. It's just as buggy as any of Bethesda's modern offerings. I mean, it's got a lot of freedom in, like, spellcraft and stuff. Just freedom that doesn't exist anymore in, like, Skyrim. But, I mean, if I was given an option, like, if I was told you're going to sit down for 24 hours and you're going to play an Elder Scrolls game, I would say Skyrim. It's easier to sit down and just enjoy. Morrowind is the Final Fantasy VII of the Elder Scrolls world. It is remembered for being more than it actually was, because it was the first popular introduction, truly popular introduction, to an RPG series that everyone still plays today. But much like Final Fantasy VII, it probably isn't as deserving of all the modern praise that it gets. I think we're all remembering Morrowind for being better than it actually is. Don't take that as hate. Still fondly remember it, and it holds up better than FF7. Even, you know, the console version without mods. The balance in Tribunal is a mess. The balance in Blood Moon, balance just in general on this game is a mess. It's from that awkward period between classic PC RPGs and modern Western RPGs where they were trying to figure out how to balance. Because anyone who played PC RPGs back in the 90s remembers they were brutal. They were incredibly brutal at times. Getting flashbacks to wizardry. So, yeah, I'm sorry, other Elder Scrolls fans. I do like this game. There's a lot of positive stuff to say about it. But if I was to try and get a modern gamer into the Elder Scrolls series, this is not one that I would recommend. And I think looking at it versus Skyrim or even Oblivion, I would suggest either one of those before Morrowind. I would say go back to and experience Morrowind if you enjoyed Skyrim and see where the series has come from. Because that'll give people a lot of insight to why things in Skyrim play the way that they do, and it might give them a better appreciation for where the series has come from. But I don't know. I might have to mod this one up and play it again, but there's still the question that remains of, you know, if you've modded Morrowind to play more like Skyrim than it does play like Morrowind, is it Morrowind anymore? It loses, I think, in taking away the things that made this game difficult and challenging. I think it might actually lose some of that charm that it had. Charm that may not hold up anymore. Has anyone out there recently played Morrowind who was not a fan of old school Western RPGs? Like, I want to know, is there anyone out there who recently played Morrowind for the first time without any expectations for what they were going into? What was your experience? Because now I'm kind of fighting with myself on it, and I'm not really sure. Anyhow, be gentle in the comments, and if you have a game that is not as good as you remember it being, just share below. I'm curious to know what your guys' picks are. Just don't put Wind Waker in there, because that game is a precious treasure. Peace out, folks. I will be streaming Mana Chemia today. I pronounced it correct. See y'all later.